Enough is enough, guys. Today we are finally going to rescape Puffer Island and make it beautiful again. You haven't seen this tank in a while because, well, it looks like this. Okay? My white sand has been impossible to keep clean. The Rotala, I was having to cut it back so much that it just, I don't know, it was taking a beating from just being hacked on all the time, and I fell into some algae issues. It's hard to see now. I mean, you can see this brown stuff throughout all the substrate. This is relatively clean for this tank. Unfortunately, there's a lot of it here in the plants as well. It's just time for a refresh. We need to make this tank a showstopper, okay, like it was for the first week that it was set up for. And so we're going to be making a lot more of a permanent scape, one that doesn't require a lot of trimming, something that's going to be easy, something you guys can replicate at home if that's the kind of style that you're into. Before we scape it, we're going to have to tear everything down, move the pufferfish out of this aquarium, and then we're going to get to building. So what are we going to build with? We have a ton of dragonstone here. I mean, this is probably, I probably have like 15 bigger pieces here. We also have some spider wood that I might incorporate. I'm not 100% sure, but I have an idea. And we're not going to be using any Suryu stone, but the scape is going to be primarily dragonstone and spider wood. Maybe. I don't know yet. So let's go ahead, before we start to scape, let's clean this tank out and get a blank canvas. Before we start to lay in that dragonstone, I want to play around with the spider wood, and I'm thinking about using it as a base, try to create some kind of like a low down, almost cave-like thing with this wood, and then have the dragonstone on top. So let's start off by laying in some of these pieces, moving them around a little bit, and see what we can do. This is what I was able to come up with, guys. So obviously there's a ton of dragonstone in here, and pretty much 90% of the pieces are not physically attached to one another. They're just resting up next to each other in a way that doesn't, you know, allow for a lot of movement, which I'm okay with. The only super gluing that we did was on the bridge here that I made, and then a couple pieces around here that just would not hold on well enough, okay? So beyond that, I mean, all this spider wood, you know, it's just, the rocks are resting on it and they're gonna hold it down and everything is just fine. There's one loose piece down there, and that is pretty much the grand total of the hardscape. It's a ton of rock, and I know it doesn't look particularly nice right now, but once we get it planted though, I think it's gonna really make things come together, and you'll kind of see where I was going with this scape. Let's dive down here at the plants that we're gonna be using. So a lot of Christmas moss. I wish I had like 2 or 3 times as much as I do here, but we'll just have to make it work. We also have some Anubias nana narrow leaf. A lot of these are really old, and so I'm gonna have to go through and pick off a bunch of leaves, but I have a ton of it, so we're gonna put that around. We also have some Nana Petite down here that we'll sprinkle in. And what else do we have here? We got some dwarf aquarium lilies, which I think could be an interesting plant to use. We'll just have to see how it goes. And then I also have some Rotala behind me from the original scape that I'm going to try and put in as well. And I'm still debating whether or not I want to put some Monte Carlo in here. I have to go back and trim the immerse setup, take some of those trimmings, and then I'm just going to kind of mess around and and do some plug and play here in between the rocks and see how that looks. Maybe down in the substrate. Not 100% sure, but let's just go ahead and start planting and see where this thing takes us. Alright guys, so I'm all done planting. I think this is pretty much how I want to leave it. So you'll notice we do have quite a bit of moss and a ton of the Anubias Nana Narrowleaf throughout the tank. A couple pieces of Nana Petite made their way up onto the top portion here, almost peeking up out of the water. And I decided to leave the spiderwood down here bare. That's something that might change in the future. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have the tank the way I want it. And it definitely did turn out to look very Jurassic Park-like, hence I had to throw in the T-Rex down there just to see. I wish, you know, honestly, I wish I could leave him there, but I mean, it is plastic. I don't know what kind of stuff it would leach into the water, so we got to take this guy out. Unfortunately, that would be a cool addition to the tank though. And honestly, it feels empty without him in there now, but we'll see what we can do about that. I do really like how this looks so far. We'll see once we fill the tank up, but the kind of under area here and you know how dark it is, it just kind of looks like everything's growing up out of this weird kind of cave down here, very jungly like. So I'm happy with it so far. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's go ahead and fill the tank up. We're gonna have to do a couple water changes here, guys. You can see all the organics and junk that comes off of the dragonstone as well as the spiderwood. So we'll be changing the water a few times. This is just the first fill up, but already I'm really loving this lower portion here of the tank. I almost don't want to put the pufferfish back in it because I have so many ideas for other cool fish that we could stock in this tank, and so we could have a lot of movement going on in it and a lot of hiding and whatnot. It almost feels kind of like a waste just having, you know, 6 or 7 puffers in here. So I don't know, that might be something that happens soon, but I do need to put the pufferfish back in here once we get everything cleaned out and ready to go. I've let the tank do its thing for a few days, and here we're revisiting it. Everything in here looks really, really good. All the Nana Petite is starting to perk up and face the right direction, which is up here at the light. Guys, if you are unfamiliar with what we have running on this tank, I'll put links to everything down in the description so you can check it out. We have the Kessel A80 light here. We run Aqua Clear HOBs, and I actually slapped on another one, an Aqua Clear 30, I believe, and that was just because, not that I needed the extra filtration, but I just wanted some more water movement across the top here, because I am feeding a lot of frozen bloodworms, which can really easily create a film on the top of your water, so I'm trying to prevent that by having a little bit more movement. It's not an ideal tank for any kind of power head or anything like that, so this is working out so far. I'm liking what's going on here. The top here where the moss is exposed, the dragonstone is able to pull enough water up to keep this stuff damp enough to survive, so that's kind of nice as I lay my arm on the tank and get my sleeve wet. But the pufferfish are doing really good. They're loving this setup. I mean, before, their temperament was fine with each other, but now they just have so much more space to explore and, you know, hide if they want to, create their own little territories and their own little zones. You know, they go down here into the cave, and there's a ton of room back here behind this rock for them to go hide out on both sides. I mean, they're even more relaxed in this aquascape, so it's working out really well for them. I'm glad to see that, and my substrate's going to be a lot easier to keep clean because, again, I'm not using that pure white sand. I have a lot more leeway when it comes to keeping the tank clean, so I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be a couple more weeks before it really starts to spread out and do its thing, but I can be patient. I like sitting back at my desk and looking at this scape. It's pretty nice. Before, when I added snails, they really didn't have much of a chance. Like, the pufferfish would get them immediately, even if they fell down into the plants. But this scape, there's a lot more hiding places. So what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna be the experiment for this tank, is just add in a ton of snails every day and try and hide them in the tank. Give them the chance to repopulate and see if we can get some kind of like a stable snail population in this tank to where I don't have to add them. There's just kind of like a consistent supply. I have no idea if that's gonna work or not, but that's what I'm working on over the next couple of weeks. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the build today. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next upload. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.